Greetings, it's Iain from RTO here. Welcome to another album ranking, and we are going to continue with part 5 of the Tangerine story. This video concentrates from 2010 to the present time. Now, sadly, in this era of the band, we sadly lost from a pulmonary embolism in 2015. One of the founders, Edgar Ferry. Very sad. But on April the 6th of that year, the group's remaining members, Thorsten Quanshin, Yurik Shonas, and Yoshiko Yamane, and with the approval of Bianca Akoe, which was Edgar's widow, pledged to continue working together in an effort to fulfill Ferry's vision for the group. However, son Jerome announced on his Facebook timeline that, in his opinion, Tangerine Dream will not exist without his father. The current band is Thorsten Quanshin, Hoshiko Yamane and Paul Frisk, so they are still going. And in this period they have released 10 albums. All of them are pretty good. No, Paul Frick, not Frisk. Paul Frick, he joined in 2020. So let's have a look at these 10 albums. So coming in at number 10 from 2010, it is called Undercover Part 1. And yes, they are all covers. So playing on here, we have got Edgar Ferry, Bernard Biebel, Iris Camra, Thorsten Quanshin, Linda Sparr, and vocals are done by Chris House. So the first track is a cover of the Gerald McMahon song that was with the Lost Boys theme, Cry Little Sister. And to be quite honest, it is not a bad version. I don't mind it. Up next is an REM track, Everybody Hurts, from Automatic from the People. It's pleasant. That's all I will say. But my favourite cover on here is a Depeche Mode song called Precious, and they do a really cracking version of it. Really, really strong. Up next is Space Oddity, David Bowie, and it just doesn't sound right. Up next, The Model by Kraftwerk. I just slowed it down. It doesn't sound right. Really doesn't. Up next is Chris Isaak's Wicked Game. It just hasn't got the same feel and atmosphere on it, I'm afraid. Hotel California's next. Yeah, move on. Suzanne, Leonard Cohen. It's alright. Then they do Heroes, David Bowie. Shall we move on, shall we? Oh, I don't want to talk about that. It's not very... But they do a very good version of Alphaville's Forever Young. Pretty good. Up next, Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls. Isn't too bad. Up next, Norwegian Wood. Stop it. No. Go away. Hallelujah. It's alright. And they do a version of Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here, which isn't too bad. Apart from a couple of songs on here, the others are okay. I just couldn't comprehend electronic versions of this song. But for the ones I did like, it is 4 out of 10. Okay, coming at number 9. This was from 2017. And even though Edgar had passed, that he just played synths on one song on this album. And the album's called Light Flux, so it's Edgar Ferry on just the one track, Thorsten Quanshin, Yurik Shonas, and Yoshiko Yamane. So the first track is Green Summer Clouds. It's a bit long, it's a bit repetitive in it, but it has got a nice feel to it. It just goes on a little bit. That's all. That's the only criticism I have. That Meteor comes now. Don't mind this track. It's got some lovely tones on here, some really nice synthy bits on it. Then they do a updated version of the track Tiger. I actually think this is a better mix than the original. The original was good, but this is far better. It's got more richness to it. Reaching Ravenna, good track. Love the echoes on this. Some lovely violin from Hoshiko. Gives it really depth. Nemesis, my favourite track on here. I love the sequencing sound on there. Some little nice touches thrown in on the violin again. Nemesis is a really good track. Logos 2014 is the last track. It's got some lovely synth tones. The drum beat's a bit too fast for me, but it doesn't spoil it. Not a bad album. It's got a nice remix on it, so I'll give this an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Okay, coming in at number 8, we have the most current album, studio album that is, from the band, and it's called Raum from 2022. Thorsten's on this. The new synthesizer player Paul Frick on Ashiko is on the violin. Continuum, the first track, it's got a dance beat to it, but it works well. There's nothing wrong with it. Some nice keyboard runs on this as well. Portico, I love this track. It has got the spirit of Edgar on here. It just sounds something that he would have come up with. Lovely sequencing, really good. Then we have the epic on here, which is called In 265 Ziken. I think that's how you pronounce it. Edgar would have loved this. It's got all them elements you expect from Tangerine Dream, dramatics, sequencing, phasing. Really good track, and Thorsten is carrying on that legacy. Next track, You're Always on Time. If you listen to this quietly, you can hear some lovely little sequencing in the background and some nice little delicate touches as well. Along the Canal, certainly something that could have been written in that period of the 70s. It's got every element of a classic sounding Tangerine Dream album with a modern twist. Absolutely brilliant. Then we have What You Should Know About Endings. Interesting track. Doesn't do much for me though. It's got this little sort of annoying phasey sound on it, which doesn't do much for me. But my favourite track is the title track. It's brilliant. You've got some beautiful violin from Yoshiko. It's a lovely crisp sort of harpsichord sounding in the middle. The beat picks up in the middle as well. Lots of lovely fades as well, and it just fades out gently. Best track on the album. Now, considering we haven't got no original members on this album, it's a pretty good album. The legacy continues. The music's still good, and if it's still good, why not carry on? It's a pretty decent album, so I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 7.4. Okay, coming in at number 7 from 2014. This is just Edgar, and it's Chandra, the Phantom Ferry Part 2. Obviously, Part 1 came out in the 2000s. On here first is a track called 3 Rock Cafnelia. Quite a moving sort of track, you know, the sort of moody, atmospheric tracks that Edgar was known for. Really good. And then we have a track called All Day Baron. The sequence in this is lovely. I like how it sort of comes in quiet and loud all through the track. Then you get this sort of droney synth in it as well. Really good. Dunmaksu is the next. It's a lovely bit of harp sounding on here. Sounds like it's being plucked. I don't know if it is, but he doesn't say what he's playing, but it's got this sort of plucky sound, and it's also got a nice guitar solo on it. Capricornus, nice gentle track at the beginning, and then you get these little tones and phasing going on. It just breaks it up. Really good. Opus is next. It's really upbeat, sort of modern dance beat to this one, but if it's used properly and you get everything right on it, it does work. Goria, solid. This is the usual sort of thing from Edgar. Pretty good, strong track. Columba, I think the drum programming is just a tad too fast because everything else is playing catch up. on that one. Cygnus or Cygnus is next. My favourite track on here. It's got that real bassy synth tone, which I love. Some lovely tones on this. There's a lovely little keyboard solo on it as well. Centaurus. It doesn't work with the modern drum beat. It does in one sense and it doesn't in the other. It's okay, this one. And Monosaurus, a lovely track, my second favourite piece on there. It's got soul, it's relaxing, and it's just a wonderful piece to end the album. I think this is probably one of the last things that Edgar did, to be quite honest. But then again, he had his fingers in so many pots, it was unreal. But it's a wonderful album if anyone says this is his last one. So I shall give it an RTO ranking of 7.5. Coming in at number 6, we go to 2011 now, and an album called The Angel of the West Window. Edgar and Thornton, and probably one of the first appearances of Hoshiko Yamane on the violin. She plays on 3 tracks on this, and she plays on this first one, The Mysterious Gift to Mankind. My favourite track on the album. It's that lovely interplay between Hoshiko and Edgar, guitar and violin respectively. Lovely piece of music. The Evening Before Easter comes now. There's a little bit in here that the sound is going backwards, and it works well. It's daunting. The main keyboard is so eerie. Absolutely wonderful track. Living in Eternity, another track that feels the talents of Hoshiko on the violin. Great track. Her violin adds to this. The Silver Boots of the Bartlett Green. There's a bit in here that actually is being played on bottles. It's quite quirky. I quite like that. Hosanna of the Damned. Echoey phasing on this. I do like that. I love that sort of sound it's creating. Dream of a Phantom of the Common Man comes next. Lovely bits on this. Plucky harpsichord sounds. Some nice drum on that. It's wonderful. The Strange Idol of Baphomet. The first song, part of this song, is very dancey. I'm not keen on it. And I thought, oh, this is going to be this all the way through. But all of a sudden, when they slow down the tempo of the drum, it's much better. The drony high-pitched keyboard and the soprano together sound great. Hold That, The Alchemist, one of my favourite tracks on this. I love the use of the voice synthesised voice sounds. I love that. It makes a lovely rhythm to it. The Invisible Seal of the Holy Tribe. The sound, it sounds like it's being played in mountains. It's got a wonderful interpretation of mystique on it. Absolutely great track to end the album. A very solid Tangerine Dream album. You know, at this stage of this game, they're still making very good albums. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 7.6. Okay, coming in number 5. Go to 2013 now. And an album called Franz, Kafka, The Castle. It's Edgar and Thornton on this. So the first track on here is called Approaching Snowy Village. Love the start of this. It's one of them tracks that starts gentle and then they keep adding the layers. And when you towards the end, you've got this lovely crescendo of everything together. Wonderfully worked out piece of music. Odd Welcome. First bit's a bit strange, but when the main part of the song comes in, it's really good. That synthesized voice on it is really good. The Untouchable Castle, one of the more slower, relaxing tracks on here. Very good. The Apparently Lunatic Hierarchy. Not one of my favourite tracks, I'm afraid. I think it's just a little bit disjointed. The one in the middle is the best bit. It's sort of the main staple, but the other 2 bits seem to have been tacked on because it wasn't long enough. But my favourite track on here is Barnabas the Messenger. It's got a very dancey drum beat to it. Now you thought, well, I wouldn't like it, but I do. But what makes it? The guitar solo. really adds to this, the guitar on this. Irredeemable entity, sorry. I love these sort of tracks. So the bass synth dominates it. I love that rich bass on here. The synthy sound really good. The implicit will to meet Callum. The bass synth dominates this again. It's got a bit of an industrial feel to it as well, and I quite like that sound as well. Desperate Never Ending Longing. The drum program on this is really good. I love the snare rolls that appear on that. Surrender and Adaptation, a gentlest tracks. I love it. It's really, you've had some real ferocious tracks, and this just brings you back down to earth. And then we have the last track, A Place of Mercy. More industrial, metallic sounding things. It's a sound that I really like, and you've got this lovely little bit of lead synth on it. There's a mixture of really good songs on here. I love the different tempos and the drum machines. More modern, and they've worked well, so I'll give this an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. Okay, then coming in at number 4, back to 2010, and it's the last of what was the 5 Atomic Seasons, and this is the Endless Season. It's Edgar on his own with Bernard turning up doing a little bit of guitar. Flashback is a very short intro, echoes and synthy sounds which goes straight into Devotion. The mixture of guitars and synths are really good, and on that one it is Edgar playing the guitar. Virtue of Hope, there's about 4 or 5 different keyboards on this, and it just sort of, and with an oriental feel, it really is good. Then we have Escape. Now this is the one that Bernard plays. I think he plays his guitar on. No, it's the next one. It's just a lovely electronic sound to it again. Oriental feel to it, sort of Vangelis-y sound as well. Now my favourite track is this one, the 7 Barriers. This is the one that Bernard plays the guitar on it. It's some great little licks. The keyboards work well. Logic of Intuition. There's an interesting key change on here. Just a flick of it like a switch and it goes up. And I was listening to this and I remember thinking, God, I used to do stuff like this on the PlayStation 2. So yeah, it's a great track. And then we have Shuniyata. Japanesey sounding wonderful track. Restless Mind, my second favourite track on here. And Edgar's using the vocal synths again. That's all the way through, and it adds to the atmosphere on this. And it also reminds me of the track Transition, which is on. I can't remember which one it's on now, but it very reminds me of the Transition. Wild Ocean of the Blue Fate. Some nice guitar on this for Edgar. Like that track. Bridging Sky. Lots of phasing and sequencing on it. It's okay. Morphine. Stringy sort of keyboard. Sounds like he's got a string orchestra in there. And it's a great track to end the album. I like this. I think of all the Atomic Seasons albums, this is my favourite. I think it's a terrific album. I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.2. Okay, coming in at number 3, we go to 2017. And this is an album called Quantum Gate. It's roughly their 150th release. Now, this is the first full-length album since Edgar's death, and there are some of Edgar's ideas on this. So Edgar, once again, does appear on some of the tracks, because I think they used his sort of demos and enhanced them. So you've got Edgar appears on this. I'm not sure what tracks. Thornston, Yurik, Shonas and Hoshiko on the violin. First track on here is called Sensing Elements. It's got that sort of, it's like a phasey thing. And the last time I heard this was on Jean-Michel Jarre's concert in China. Really good sort of harpy sound on it. I love that track. Roll the 7 twice. Lots of sequencing add to it. Really adds to the track. It's got a nice sort of chordy synth thing running through it as well. Them granular blankets, the violin of Hoshiko's on here, it's wonderful. It just gives it so much depth. Very good. Then we have a track called It Is Time to Leave When Everyone Is Dancing. I think this is one of those tracks that if you put on in a dance club, people will be dancing to it without knowing who it is. And if they found out who it was, they'd probably be a bit, ooh, this is not cool. But it's a dance track, and it's a very clever and well put together track. I even like it. Identity Proven Matrix. Lots of Edgar on here. His legacy is in there. It's just, I think it probably one of them tracks that Edgar had laid down something and Thornson's just added to it. Really good. Then we got Non-Locality Destination. Betspiss on here is the violin from Hoshiko. Very good, and it's got some guitar on there as well, which adds to it. But my favourite track is Proton Bonfire. It's a really good track. It builds and builds, and then towards the end, everything sort of fades out. They gradually fade out the instruments. Very clever how they've done that. It's a great track. Tear Down the Grey Skies. It's got that bassy, synthy sound, rich. The sequencing is wonderful on here. I love this track. Genesis Precious Thoughts, the last track. It's got a great drum programming in it. It's very clever how they halfway through speed it up without no disjointing. Excellent track. So, you know, Edgar sadly passing away. Thornston took up the mantle as the group leader, and he's done a great job, I think. There's lots of things on here you know that was Edgar, and I think this band's still got a lot of credibility. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.5. Okay, coming in at number 2. We go to 2011 now. And Finnegans Wake. Edgar's on here. Thornston's on here. We've got Linda Spar on here. Iris Camera. And Bernard Biebel. And Yoshiko Yamane on the violin. So the first track is called The Sensational Fall of the Master Builder. One of my favourite starts on any Tangerine Dream song. I love the echoes on this, and the bass is really good, and a wonderful start. Then we have Finnegans Excessive Wake. Interesting piece of music. It's got this Celtic feel to it and some lovely tones, very atmospheric. Then we have they redo one of their own tracks. It's a track that was on Hyperbora, and it's Resurrection by the Spirit. Once again, we have a track that both versions sound good. This is just a modern version of the original, and it works, and it's quite good. Up next is my favourite track on here, Mother of All Sources. Now, there's two reasons I like this. One, of course, is the beautiful violin of Hoshiko. And then you get this sort of backward sound. It really adds to it. Just incredible sort of track. The Warring Forests for the Twins, pleasant enough. It's got some nice tones on it, but I didn't like the modern drum beat. It just didn't work for me on that one. Then we have 3 Quarks for the Master Mark. The highlight of this is the guitar work. I'm not quite sure who plays the guitar. I wouldn't, probably Edgar. It's an absolute belting track. Then we got Everling's Mythical Letter. I like how this slows down the beat, and they just take it down a notch. Very clever. You just don't notice it, but there is this slight change. Hermaphrodite is the next track. It's the last track. It's an eerie keyboard at the beginning, and they build up this tempo. The guitar work from Edgar on it is fantastic. Great album from top to bottom. Not a bad track on here, really. Okay, there's got a bit of a drum beat that I don't like, but the keyboard work is just fabulous. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 8.6. So my number one, well, it's definitely the best album of this part of the career, from 2011. It's The Island of the Fae. We have got Edgar Feroze, Thorson Quashling, Hoshiko Yamane on the violin, Linda Spar is on flute, and Irish Camera is on percussion. The first track is called Marmantel Riding on a Cliff. The phasing at the beginning of this is really good. It's got some really chord bits on here. One of my favourite pieces of music from this band. Absolutely stunning. Breathe, Kissing Matter's Mouth. The violin from Hoshiko is wonderful. She plays really well on this. Love that track. Beauty of Magic Antagonism. Wonderful track again. The gentleness, it's ambient, some lovely keyboard runs on that. Faye Bewitching the Mood, classic sounding Tangerine Dream, just used a little bit of 21st century sound on it. Ashiko's violin is wonderful on this. Cycle of Eternity, wonderful track. It's got a nice tempo to it, it's got some atmospheric keyboards on it. Death in the Shadow, it's got this real techno start on the drums, but the keyboards just bring it to life. Deep, rich sound, and the echoey phasey on it, wonderful. Moment of a Floating into the Light. Bass sequencing here, different layers. I love the little, it's got this little warbly bass piece and a violin that sort of soothes it out. Really good. You've got the harshness of the bassy keyboards and the smoothness of the violin that very complements each other. Darkness Veiling in the Night. The percussion on this is terrific. I don't know if this is Iris. She's doing a great job because it sounds great. Some keyboard tones in it are wonderful. It's a really intense track to end the album. I've always believed this is probably the best album of the 21st century, without a doubt. Edgar using his knowledge of what he'd done in his experience, embracing that modern technology. It's a bit of a crossover album as well. You know, you got some mixture of the people from the beginning of the 2000s and Yoshiko coming in. It's sort of a crossover album. I think this is pretty good, and she's made such an impact on the band since she's been with them. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.8. So there we go. Now we've gone through all the studio albums, and a lot of them. I mean, the live albums and the compilation albums will be there all day. But next week we've got the last part of the story, and we're going to concentrate on the soundtrack work. They have done many, many soundtracks for films and TV. So we'll have a look at that next week. Okay, coming up next is A Perfect Side, becoming very popular. And this week we are going to tackle Uriah Heep's Demon and Wizards. So join me for that later. Bye for now.